for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Folks, you know that in Luzerne County, just think about this for a moment, 800 to 900, there are 800 to 900 sexual violent crimes committed on men, women, and children. That's right. In Luzerne County, in 1 year, just Luzerne County, 800 to 900 sexual violent crimes committed in Luzerne County. Now, what about Carbon County and Wyoming County? We'll find out about them. Today, we're going to have, my guest is going to tell you a little bit about this and what we can do to prevent and what we can do to help. My guest is Patrick Rushton. He is the Outreach and Education Manager for the Victims Research Center. And once in a while, Andy's going to put a phone number up there for you. So in case anything you're listening to today that sparks an interest, that you'd like to get information, I'm sure everything is confidential, we would want you to call that number and also the website. So let me welcome Patrick. Patrick, how are you?
Good morning, Sam. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. Retired policeman, right? From
Retired
Wilkes-Barre?
from Wilkes-Barre City Police Department, yes.
Well, let me tell you, my hat goes off to anyone in the police force today. It's just, you know, you don't know what happens. I'm sure when you were on the force, you got up with your friends, and at the end of the day, there was a tragic somewhere along the line.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. You know, our goal was, you know, when we leave our family in the morning or the evening, whenever we left, to do our best to get home to them at night, and it's getting a lot tougher to do that anymore.
That's why I admire everyone who's in law enforcement today, no matter what division. It's just a challenge for them, and we should be there to support them, okay, as much as we can, you know. But so that being a retired captain in the Wilkes-Barre Police Force, what gave you an interest to go into the Victims Resource Center?
Well, while I was on the police department, Sam, I was the liaison for the department with the Victims Resource Center, as well as the Domestic Violence Service Center, which is another agency. So I worked with those agencies to make sure that our department was meeting the needs of victims, that we were responding to the needs of victims. That if there are any issues or problems, I would be the person to try to smooth them over, straighten them out. So I got to learn about the work that the Victims Resource Center did with victims of sexual violence, as well as victims of other types of crime. And I found it a worthwhile profession. And when I had the opportunity to retire and go to work there, I took that opportunity.
When you saw the research center, I was at one of the centers that District Attorney Musto established in Wilkes-Barre, a house where they would bring in the children, you know, in situations where it was like home, so they could just talk with them, etc. And now current DA is Stephanie Salavanis is promoting that as well. And they're doing a great job with that. The Victims Resource Center, is this, now you have locations in Luzerne County and other places. Now you also cover Carbon in Wyoming, correct?
Yes, we're a private not-for-profit agency. We're not affiliated with the county government, but we work closely with people in the county government. And we have offices. Our main office is in the Kirby Health Center in Wilkes-Barre. Mm-hmm. We have an office in Lehighton that serves Carbon County, an office in Tunkhannock that serves Wyoming County. And we also have an office that we use in Christ Lutheran Church in Cunningham. So people in the Hazleton area don't have to drive to Lehighton or Wilkes-Barre. They can come over to Cunningham and receive services, counseling services right there in Cunningham.
Now, when you're looking at, I said in Luzerne County, 800 to 900 sexual violent victims, okay, and that's men, women, and children, not necessarily always women. Right. I would assume the majority of them are women versus men. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, majority of victims of sexual violence are women. It's estimated that 1 in 4 women will be the victim of a sexual assault in her lifetime. For men, it's probably 1 in 35 men. Children, about 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are victims of sexual abuse by the time they're 18 years old. It's estimated that in our country, in any given year, about 650,000 children are victims of sexual abuse.
You know, Patrick, excuse me. I'm a firm believer in every time there's a a cause, there's an effect, as well as, and so the way the country is going, people do things either because of drugs, alcohol, depression, financial situations. And believe me, I'm not a psychologist, but talking to some people, pressure of society, and of course what they see on television, in the movies, okay? And when you're having, when you hear the tragedies that happen in the country, you say, how could a guy go in there and shoot kids? Or how could he go into a mall? So what kind of educational programs are available for people to understand what's going on and what not to do?
Well, we do a lot of education programs. In any given year, we do as many as probably about 750 to 800 education programs. We start out in actually as early as preschools, and we'll talk to little kids about what we call no-go-tell, to try to empower these little kids that they have the right to say no to a touch that makes them feel uncomfortable, people touching them where they shouldn't be, and more importantly, if that happens to them, to tell somebody, because so often children who are victims don't tell till much later in life. We do a similar program for parents. So we'll talk to the parents about reinforcing that with children, to make sure that their children know that it's okay to say no to someone touching them, and that it's okay to tell that we're going to believe you and we're not going to blame you. It's not your fault, because so many children are afraid to tell. So we'll do those programs with children as well as with parents. We do trainings for teachers on recognizing signs that children are being abused. We'll do trainings in daycares, for staff in daycares, for the same type of thing. We do trainings for professionals about reporting sexual abuse, because under Pennsylvania's Child Protective Services law, there are people who are mandated reporters, teachers, doctors, nurses, police officers, who, if they suspect abuse, are required by law to report it. So we'll help them understand their requirements under the law. We go into high schools and do programs for students in high schools on awareness of sexual violence, things to be careful of, but also things that people can do to prevent sexual violence. And the strategy that we've been using for the last couple of years is something that's been being used across the country. It's bystander intervention.
What's that?
Bystander intervention. Okay. As I said, I was a policeman for 21 years. I never saw a rape in progress, but I arrested rapists. Most of us will never see a rape in progress, but we can say things, we can speak up. Most men don't rape. It's only a small percentage of men who commit rapes. So our goal with the bystander intervention is to get those men to understand that what they're doing is not okay. Most rapists will come across as nice guys. Okay? Most people who sexually assault someone are known to the victim, family members, friends, acquaintances. So we try to get people to speak up when they see or hear behaviors that send the message to those people who commit those crimes that what they're doing is okay. So when someone tells a sexist joke, to say, that's not okay. When someone sexually harasses a woman in the mall, on the street, in a parking lot, to speak up and say, what if that were your sister? Would you like that? So interrupting those behaviors before the violence happens, that's what we're trying to do. Send a message to those people who do commit those crimes that it's not okay what you're doing. Because a lot of them think that what they are doing is just, sadly, a lot of men who rape think what they're doing is just normal, that that's what guys do. So we're trying to send a message that that's not okay.
You say that most rapists, okay, when you arrest them, they're nice guys, okay? Well, there has to be something that triggers them to do what they do, okay? And what have you found?
Well, first of all, nice is a tactic that rapists will use. Nice is not a quality.
I understand.
Nice is a behavior. Right. So they will try to come across as nice guys. Rape isn't about sexual desire. It's not about finding someone's just so hot that you can't control yourself. Rape is about wanting to have power over someone, wanting to use that power to humiliate them, to embarrass them, to degrade them. So this is what motivates rapists, wanting to have power over someone. So that's their motivation. That is what's behind most sexual assaults.
Folks, I'm talking to Patrick Rushton, who is the outreach education manager of the Victims Resource Center. When we grew up, especially in Italian families, they hugged, they kissed. It was a matter of being close. Now the distinctions here, as the country is changing, and God knows kids who are 7, 8 years old are so knowledgeable today in so many areas. How do we focus in on those? We come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Rush. But first of all, Andy, we put the number on the screen. If you have any concerns whatsoever, if you think there's something wrong, neighbors, if you think there's something happening across the street or next to you, or there's any friends of yours, or you're hearing some things, here's a number just to call to get information. You could save a person's life or save a lot of hardship with a lot of families. 866-206-9050. That's 866-206-9050. And the website is VRC, that would be Victims Resource Center, NEP.org. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. 24/7 SSPTV.com. My email is sam@ssptv.com, and thank you so much for the tremendous response we received when our FYI News 13 brought to you by the Standard Speaker and SSP TV. As you could tell, folks, or you'll be seeing if you're watching this before March 24th, we are going to, in the greater Hazleton area, now increase the information we have on our news, and we appreciate the great responses. You're going to love it. My guest today is Patrick Rushton. He is the educator of the outreach education manager for the Victims Resource Center. Now, they have offices in Wilkes-Barre, Tunkhannock, Lehighton, and Cunningham. All right, and I gave you a website before, and I forgot to mention it's NEPA. It's VRCNEPA.org. All right, we're talking about affections and telltale signs, and talk about, as an Italian, growing up in an Italian family, we're very emotional. We like hugs, we kisses, etc. And I have 3 grandchildren, and every time I see Alyssa, Isabella, or Mason, where's my hug? Where's my hug? Okay. And so you just said something that I find interesting. There are distinctions here, correct?
Yes, and I have 3 grandchildren as well. And if I go into my daughter's home and my granddaughters are there, and I'll say, "Do you have a hug for Pop?" They're little kids, and they may be busy with something, and they don't want to come right over and stop what they're doing. It's important that we don't insist that our children show affection, either give a hug or accept a hug, because when we do that, we're sending a message we don't often think about. We're sending a message to those little kids that they have no choice, that if an adult wants to hug them, touch them, kiss them, that they have to allow that. So it's important for parents or grandparents, as you and I, not to insist that the children show that affection. Let it go till they're ready. Sometimes kids, I found, they're busy doing things. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so the form of education. Okay, now April is an awareness month. Okay,
Right.
that we're coming into Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Let's look at education now for parents and guardians, what they should be telling their children, and then how about adults? Okay, if there's telltale signs with the husband or the wife or the boyfriend or whatever. Okay, let's start with the parents. How should they become aware?
Well, I think it's important for parents to let their children know that it's okay for them to say no to touches, no matter who it is, and that if someone does touch them or do something to them that made them feel uncomfortable, they don't like, that it's okay to tell them. Because so many kids just don't tell. So many children don't tell. For many reasons, they're afraid they're not going to be believed, they're going to be blamed. So they don't tell, and they keep it inside them. And it affects children. It affects their well-being, it affects their health. So it's important for parents to let their kids know that, if something happens, you can come to me, you can talk to me, and I'll believe you, and I won't blame you, I won't get upset with you. It's important for parents to send a message that they're concerned about their children. They're going to be watchful. Keeping an eye out for people who maybe for no real good reason want to be spending time with your child.
Staying on the children for a moment, then we
Sure.
get to adults. Okay, there are times, and I have 3 grandchildren, as I said, and they love to go. They have friends, and you know, we always, my daughter and my son always monitor when they're going to sleepovers, and they're going to someone else's home. Okay, my wife was always, you know, always check where they're going, the safety factors of the home. What about who's in that house when my kid is sleeping there that night? What about, and she did a thorough examination. You think you were going into the FBI. And how important is that? So when your kids are going with someone on vacation or different things, these are critical areas when you think.
Oh, so important, Sam. You know, before you allow your child to spend time in anyone's company, whether it's watching them for a little bit during the day, going to their home, or a sleepover, to be as careful as you can, to learn what you can about that family. And as you said, so important, who's in that home? You know, maybe you know mom and dad very well. Maybe you're very comfortable with them. But is there someone else staying there? Is there another adult living in that house who you don't know about? You know, find that out. You know, it's okay to ask questions. You know, sometimes we're concerned about offending other people. We should be more concerned about protecting our kids. So asking the questions, who's going to be there? Where are they going to sleep? You know, what are the sleeping arrangements? Things like that. You know, that's okay. You know, worry about protecting your kids more than offending someone else.
And that, I think that's critical, Patrick. I really think that's critical, especially with children. What do you find the average age for these sexual victim children? I know there are a lot of ages, but what's the average age?
For children, it can be anywhere from, I mean, we've seen kids as young as 3 or 4 years old, sadly, Sam, but probably, you know, age 5 to 12 or 13 years old. Most males who are sexually abused 6 to 11 years old in there. And there are a lot of adult men who are survivors of sexual assault, Sam. There really are a lot. So that's the age, you know.
You know, and so here's where the Victims Resource Center comes into, because when things happen in life, okay, if it's a female, a woman getting raped or sexually abused, or a man, there are a lot of psychological things that happen, okay? And what are some of those things that would happen with it?
Well, one of the biggest things is the loss of trust. As I said, most victims are victimized by someone they know, usually somebody they trusted. So when that person victimizes them, it's that feeling, who now can I trust? I trusted them and they hurt me. And so that loss of trust is really one of the biggest impacts. The feeling that it was their fault it certainly affects people. But people go through anxiety, depression, substance abuse, drug and alcohol abuse. There's so many victims out there. And
people, sometimes these people who are victims of these sexual crimes are scared. And they're told if they say anything, you're going to pay the consequences. So they're threatened, and this hence maybe alcohol and drugs, etc. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So the process would be, okay, if someone is being sexually abused or there's problems, they know if I call this number, there are going to be people here. My family's going to get disrupted. It could get worse. He could go off the handle. She could go crazy. My kids, everyone in the neighborhood, it's not worth it for me to call. Is that the way I should look at this?
No. First of all, our phone number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always a counselor available on our crisis line. Secondly, any conversation between a victim of sexual violence and one of our counselors is not only confidential by our practice, it's confidential by law. In Pennsylvania, there's a law that says any communication between a victim of sexual assault and a certified rape crisis counselor, which all of our staff are, is confidential by law. We can't tell anyone what that person tells us. That means family, police, district attorney, not even a judge can require us to disclose what someone tells us without their written permission. So someone who calls our phone line knows that they have the assurance of absolute confidentiality.
Folks, I'm talking to Patrick Rushton, and he is the Outreach Education Manager for the Victim Resource Center. You can see, folks, this is critical information for you to understand. The number is 866-206-9050. No one's going to know if you have any, no one's going to know what you're calling about. We come back, there's things happening in April that are exciting to bring more awareness to this, okay? Hopefully this show will help some people or prevent things happening. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. It is in April. There's a lot of things happening with the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. My guest today is Patrick Rushton. He is the Outreach Education Manager for the Victims Resource Center. And we'll have the number on the screen, folks. If you just tuned in, I think this is a show that you definitely want to watch. You know, the Sam Lesante show is 24/7 on our website. Plus, we showed a number of times. Just check our schedule to check the standard speaker. Patrick, April, in order for people to become more aware, we're making them aware of this now via my show, but what's happening in April starting at the beginning of the month?
Sure, Sam. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it's a month, national recognition of things that may affect people as far as sexual assault. So on April 2nd, we're going to have our 35th annual mock rape trial. And this is going to be held at King's College in the Student Center at 6 o'clock. And this will be conducted as a real trial. Judge Tina Gartley is going to preside over it. We're going to have Assistant District Attorney as the prosecutor. We're going to have 2 members of the public defender's staff represent the offender. We'll have a sexual assault nurse examiner from Wilkes-Barre General Hospital testify. We're going to have a retired state police commander, Paul Mondofik, is going to be the police prosecutor. And then we'll have a victim and we'll have a witness. So it's free, it's open to the public. It lasts probably about an hour and a half. And it gives people sort of a snapshot of what a trial is like.
Very, very informative.
Yep.
Yes.
And then on April 9th, we're going to have our annual rally. The week of April 6th to the 12th is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So what we're going to be doing is, in conjunction with both the week and the month, we're going to have our annual Take Back the Night rally. And it's going to start with a march. And the marches will start at Wilkes University at their Student Center, King's College at the Student Center. Participants will, and it's open to everybody, not just college students, will walk to Public Square in Wilkes-Barre, where the 2 groups will meet, and they'll come to our office at the Victims Resource Center. And weather permitting, we'll have it outside on the lawn, and we'll have speakers. We will have a victim of sexual assault who's going to speak. We're going to have a woman whose father was a victim of a DUI crash. She's been on your show before. She's going to talk about her experience. Carla.
Yeah.
Carla's going to talk about her experience in the criminal justice system. We're going to have a student from King's College who, Vito Rinaldi, and Vito has worked with us for 4 years. He's a senior criminal justice major, and Vito has helped us for 4 years. And Vito's going to talk about his experiences working at the Victims Resource Center. And then we're going to have a nurse from the one of the hospitals just talk about her experiences working with victims. So we'll have a lot of speakers. We're going to have a DJ there. We get a lot of participation. The Wilkes University football team will be there. Wilkes men's soccer, wrestling team, basketball team. The King's College football team will be there. So we get a lot of student representation as well as communities.
Yeah, and the thing here again is it's going to be fabulous because it brings a lot of awareness. But having a having a person who actually used a research center could tell their story, what went through their mind before they made that phone call, what went through their mind before they walked in, and what happened after that. I think that'll tell the story in itself, that people should not be fearful at all to call if there's anything they see what's going on, because everything is fully confidential. Well, I wish you the very best, and as I said, our news and our information here is available to you 24/7. You guys do great work, and if we could save one person's family or life today, my show is well worth it. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for your interest in this, Sam.
Phone number, folks, for the Victims Resource Center is 866-206-9050. Strictly confidential. Their website is vrcnepa.org. If you know of anybody, anything's happening, if you're fearful in your home, there's no reason for you to continue on that way. Get information, get involved in April with this awareness thing, and you'll understand it's a great thing. We'll see you next time.